Welcome, my friends, to the world of HeroQuest, a place unlike any other. And today, I'm going to demonstrate how I've expanded upon BattleMasters by enhancing the gameplay with the addition of a wizard, a general, and an ogre lord, and my homebrew element, a gargoyle. All of these advanced characters were the initial vision of Stephen Baker, set aside for future expansions we never received. So unpack your box, set up your minis, and get ready for battle. This is the Fair Weatherman. Welcome back to the channel. I can't thank y'all enough for all the love and support you have shown me over the past 7 months as I've continued to grow my channel, covering the re-release of HeroQuest as well as the original and expanding upon Advanced HeroQuest and BattleMasters. It warms my heart to see the amount of subscribers continue to tick up and the amount of watch hours consumed. So if you're still on the fence, deciding on if you want to subscribe yet to the channel, I hope I can encourage you with this video to hit that subscribe button and join us as we continue to fight against Zargon and his chaotic minions of dread. While I enjoy the original Battlemaster rules, I sought out to expand upon the game and came across a Stephen Baker interview over the past couple years. It was his vision to continue to add to the gameplay with the expansion of a giant ogre for the Chaos Army, and a general and a wizard for the Imperial Army. I sought out to use my HeroQuest content for ease of implementation. It's my hope that these characters help balance the forces, with the Imperials gaining both characters and the Chaos choosing between either the ogre or my homebrew gargoyle. To further enhance the game, I've incorporated my own reinforcement rules and an end-of-day rearmament. I sincerely hope these additions deepen your love and appreciation for this wonderful game. So let's get into this. I'd first like to talk about reinforcements and how I've gone about implementing them into my gameplay. I realized that MB did release 2 expansions of reinforcements, one for the Chaos Warband, including 24 Citadel miniatures. The Imperial Lords also got an expansion release as well, including an additional cannon, some Imperial Knights, as well as a Lord Knight. Before deploying forces, both players agreed upon the maximum number of points that they would use to make up each army. Players assembled their armies using the point values given. The 2 armies don't have to have exactly the same amount of total points, but they should be as close as possible. So if each army agreed upon 60 points, they would go about spending those points and fulfilling their armies based off of the point values given. The addition of both reinforcement boxes added the ability to add multiple ogres, cannons, men-at-arms, beastmen, thus allowing you to customize your forces. I've used this idea to expand upon the way I would like to rearm my armies. When units are destroyed, the attacking player gains points to purchase reinforcements at the end of each battle day. The number of points earned are equal to half the destroyed unit's combat value, rounding up. As troops are being killed and destroyed on the board, I would give the Imperial Army half of the amount of points that these troops were worth. In this case, I would round up. So half of 3 would be 1.5. I would just round up to 2, and I would allow the Imperial troops to gain 2 points that I would then tally on a piece of paper. And as the battle progresses, you would then go after and destroy troops that are worth maybe more points to then use those points to turn in for reinforcements at the end of each battle day. A day of battle comes to an end when the blank battle card is drawn and at the completion of the deck of battle cards. Players can spend as many points as they'd like to call up new troops, which are placed immediately on the first or second row of their side of the battle mat. Only previously defeated units can be repurchased. Points continue to accumulate with every unit destroyed, and spent points are discarded. As the rules state, gameplay is determined based off of the cards drawn and the movement of troops that are on the card. This continues to play out until you run out of the whole deck of cards and have to shuffle them up and restart again. One clever way that we have incorporated into our gameplay utilizes the blank BattleMasters card that you received in the original game. What I would do is shuffle this into the deck and continue to play cards as normal. When you come across that blank playing card, it would represent the end of day. Troops that have found safety amongst the ditches on the board would then recover one lost body point. So if our set of archers at the end of the battle day were stationed within the ditch and had 2 battle points on them, I can then remove one of them, thus allowing those sets of troops to restore and re-energize for the next day's battle. This can also be utilized for troops that are held within the mighty tower. If these orcs here were found at the end of battle day within the tower, it can also restore 1 body point of damage. The rearmament feature allowed for a really awesome fun play mechanic where we would battle to see who can get to safety within the game board before the end of day. So if I had a wounded ogre, I would then seek to try to find safety within a ditch or a tower to restore 1 body point of damage and strengthen that before the battle that comes at dawn. I've created a really easy double-sided sheet that you can print off that'll add to my Google Drive. Link will be in the description below. That does have all of these rules on there, as well as the amount of points that each of the Imperial Army and Chaos Army have to accumulate in order to purchase reinforcements. I imagine that this card was intended for people to homebrew characters into the game, and that's why it was left blank. What a fun way to incorporate something that already exists back into the game. I did debate about drawing on here some really cool Skaven and creating a Skaven army that would then enter the battle, which I might do in the future. I also noticed that if you go on and buy some advanced HeroQuest figures, that there is a possibility that they might fit on these bases. And so the addition of buying more of those loose figures might be a fun way to incorporate into gameplay. Now on to some fun stuff. With the addition of Stephen Baker's initial vision of adding a wizard player to the Imperial Army. Something that I think would be fairly easy to do if you're someone who collects the re-release of HeroQuest, or if you're someone who has the classic HeroQuest game or Advanced HeroQuest. All of these figures would work nicely on the game board and look really great on the mat. Personally, I really like the older models, so I'll probably end up using the Advanced HeroQuest wizard for this. But if you play with children, most of them like variation, and so adding the addition of the female version is great for my daughter, as well as the really cool traditional HeroQuest wizard with his big old hand up in the air ready to go. Just like the original HeroQuest game, we're going to utilize the stats that are found on the card, so you'll need access to this as you play. You're also going to have all of the 12 spells from the 4 elements. The wizard can utilize these on their turn, some of which you might have to adapt, but are pretty easy to incorporate just by reading what's on the card. The Imperial Army has secured the services of the wizard hero from the outskirts of the realm. His or her magic ability is unmatched in combat. The wizard character moves whenever the Mighty Cannon card is drawn. You would then roll a 1d6 die. The wizard would then be able to move up to 2 squares that are unoccupied. Where this character shines is the special ability to cast spells up to 3 squares or hexagons away. So in this case, if the wizard was here, they can still create an offensive or defensive spell on the Wolf Riders, or strengthen up any of the troops that are 2 squares away. I suggest keeping them tucked away behind your troops, because with a defensive 2, they're rather weak and can be destroyed fairly easily. So using things like courage on a men-at-arms here, granting the ability to roll 2 extra combat dice. Now I know there's big debate over, does it last a full turn? Does it last until the monsters are out of sight? I believe First Light cleared that up, but in this case I would just say it can be used once and then that spell would be discarded. Ball of Flame, Fire of Wrath, those are pretty straightforward. Can put that one there, would be fairly easy to do. Are earth spells more defensive than anything? Heal body, pass through rock. I would allow a set of troops to maybe move through the tower to the other side, or rock skin, allowing that set of troops to be more defensive on their next go. Our water spells are pretty easily adapted, like Sleep, Water of Healing, and Veil of Mist, allowing troops or the wizard herself to move unseen through spaces that are occupied by monsters. Of course, we have Swift Wind, enabling them to move twice as many. Genie, obviously you can't search the battle mat, everything's seen, but you would be able to attack with the 5 combat dice. And then Tempest, allowing that monster to lose their next turn. All easily adapted into BattleMasters. You will need a set of red dice from HeroQuest to roll for mind points and attack, for healing, just like you would in HeroQuest. So what I do is I have both the Imperial Army and the Chaos Army just hang on to one of those dice. Now, I already hear it. Y'all think this is going to be unbalanced. But when you see the Ogre Lord and the Gargoyle on the Chaos side, you'll then know that this does balance out fairly well. Now, the next addition that we have of Stephen Baker's original idea was the inclusion of a general. Now, I went ahead and just envisioned this general being a knight that would then lead the troops into battle. I'm not fortunate enough to have access to the Champions of the Guardian Knight, but if you did, you can easily use the male and female versions, or you can use the knight that we received from Rise of the Dread Moon, as well as my favorite, the warrior that's included in Advanced HeroQuest. Either one of these would make a fine addition to the battle mat and make it really fun for the Imperial player to have at their disposal. The General Knight directs the Imperial Army, leading them into combat with 3 heroic skill cards: Knight's Challenge, Stalwart, and Shield Block. So here are the cards that you would receive in Rise of the Dread Moon, or if you're one of those lucky people who had Commander of the Guardian Knights, you can use those as well. Just like the wizard, our knight player would have an attack of 2, a defense of 3, body 7, and mind 2. Although I haven't incorporated any type of chaos player that has spells, you can easily homebrew that into this game. You don't need the white sheet to tally up anything. All that you would need to use are the tokens that I like to place on the card during play. So if my knight was taking on damage, I would just place them on the card and know how to tally the score. The movement for the General Knight is based off of the Imperial cards that are drawn that have the Lord Knights on them. Whenever the Lord Knights are drawn, the Lord Knights would move, as well as the General Knight would be able to roll 1 dice and move either 1 to 6 spaces. If you're familiar with the hero character from HeroQuest, 2 out of the 3 cards are defensive. Shield Block allows the knight to take on damage from any opposing forces that are next to the knight. So let's just say that the Imperial Knights were there and were taking on damage. With my knight placed next to it, if there were some wounds inflicted on so in this case, the Imperial Knights would have taken on 1 hit from the Beastmen. Shield Block could be played to defend off that damage. Knight's Challenge is used in HeroQuest when a wandering monster is shown up on the board, allowing the knight to take on that attack instead of the hero that drew the treasure card within the dungeon. We don't have any treasure decks here, but in this situation we can say if the Beastmen were trying to kill off the Imperial Knights and rolled dice to take it out, the knight player could then use Knight's Challenge and force the attack on themselves. Like I said, the knight has a body strength of 7, so it is able to take on quite a bit of damage. And if the knight really wanted to stop its troops from being destroyed, it could then challenge the Beastman player to attack him instead. Now the last card that can be placed on the board is Stalwart. And this is whenever the knight is destroyed, it can then regain some strength and stay alive with 1 remaining body point left. The knight's body points would go from 0 and instead be reduced to 1. All of these cards can only be used once on the battlefield per battle. The other addition that we've added to the Knight General is allowing them to strengthen up any neighboring troops and granting them 1 extra defense dice. So as you can see, we've utilized the Knight's defense capabilities and allow it to grant defense to all of the troops that are around the Knight. So anytime there are Chaos forces attacking any of the Imperial troops that are surrounding the Knight then grants 1 extra defense dice for those troops. I do allow the free movement across other hero characters on the board. So in the traditional rules, troops cannot occupy the same spaces on the board. What we've allowed is hero characters like the Wizard and the Knight can move freely through one another. Thus just adding another really fun, unique way for these characters to move on the board that we don't traditionally see in BattleMasters. Now I couldn't help myself to find a way to incorporate the Ogre Lord into BattleMasters. Stephen Baker's original idea was to add some type of large ogre or large monster, maybe a troll of some sort, which would be really fine additions to BattleMasters. If you have the original expansion of Against the Ogre Horde, there are some really cool ogres that you can add to the BattleMasters game. I don't have those expansions. So I did go through my Against the Ogre Horde box from the re-release and thought, I gotta find a way to add this guy in there. So I'm gonna envision that this is what Stephen Baker had in mind, and in comparison to the Ogre Champion, which is essentially the sculpt that we received in Against the Ogre Horde in the late 80s. He just looks really menacing. The Chaos Army has employed a mercenary Ogre Lord, a creature of immense power and ferocity, who commands all monsters in the realm. The way this creature would move on the board is stated on the HeroQuest card. We would allow the Ogre Lord to move 4 spaces anytime that the Chaos Knights are drawn from the battle deck, thus allowing movement of the Ogre Lord different than the Ogre Champion, which utilizes the Chaos card of the Ogre Champion being drawn, and then the use of these 3 cards. The Ogre Lord has the ability to attack 6 dice, defend 6, and has a body of 10, which is ridiculous, I know. But I love the use of this Ogre Lord in battle, and you might be thinking, man, this is not balancing the forces at all. But with the addition of the Knight, strengthening defense of all the troops and the Wizard being able to attack 3 squares away, I do feel like a Wizard can get behind some troops and inflict quite a bit of damage with the fire spells. So let's say the Chaos card was drawn, and the Ogre now gets to move up to 4 spaces. He would then be able to create a commanding attack on the men-at-arms and inflict 4 body points of damage. Now, like I said, if there was a knight on the table behind these troops, they would be able to get to defend 4 instead of 3. In this case, it would have been destroyed regardless. One thing I will say to make it a little more fair and exciting, much like in the original game with the Ogre Champion, you're always trying to destroy that thing with your cannon. But because the Ogre Lord is so powerful, I decided to allow the cannon to hit it twice, thus in a way making each strike from the cannon 5 points of damage. One addition that we did add to the Ogre Lord is its special ability to strengthen all neighboring troops with 1 extra attack dice. So in this case, the Champions of Chaos would be able to roll 6 attacking dice when it goes to attack the archers, because it's neighboring the Ogre Lord. Another really cool feature that we did add to the Ogre Lord is its ability to have a sweeping attack. So, in exchange for 2 body points of damage, the Ogre Lord would be able to roll all 6 attack dice. Wow, 5 hits of damage on all troops, and you don't have a choice to do one or the other on the cannon, the archer, and the Champions of Chaos. thus in a way allowing them to defend and possibly killing its own troops in the battle. I think the Ogre Lord is a very straightforward and fun addition from HeroQuest to BattleMasters, and one that I feel you have to try out. With the additions like the Ogre Lord from Against the Ogre Horde, who's to stop you from incorporating the Ogre Champion and the Ogre Commander also into your gameplay? Two really cool sculpts that you can then add by just exchanging the Ogre Lord rule set that I've created with their respective cards. Now the last homebrew edition that we've included outside of Stephen Baker's original idea is the addition of a Gargoyle. Take your pick. I have in front of me the original Gargoyle from the 1989 release. We have the re-release Gargoyle from the 2021 release. And I also have the inclusion of the Gargoyle that I found on Etsy from Mountain View 3D, which I think is the most commanding and amazing sculpt out of the three. So I'm going to go ahead and utilize this guy in gameplay. And as you can see, he takes a really commanding presence on the board. The Gargoyle. Through chaos magic, these stone monsters are reanimated and enslaved and forced to fight for the Dark Army. Now we're going to go ahead and use the same stats from HeroQuest. It has ability to move 6 spaces, and we've homebrewed its movement to be unhindered, allowing it to move through spaces up to 6 squares, thus allowing it to utilize its wings in battle. So this guy, if he wanted, could easily just move right over troops in battle. To keep things simple, we've also utilized its movement to be incorporated with the Chaos Knights. And that way, regardless if you're playing the Ogre Lord or the Gargoyle, it's just an even exchange one or the other. Like I said before, the Imperial Army gets to utilize both hero players in battle, the Knight and the Wizard, and we're just going to allow the Chaos Army to utilize one Gargoyle or Ogre Lord. And that way it just keeps things a little bit more balanced. They also have the Ogre Champion as well. This just allows a little bit more free movement that are unhindered, allowing it to get out and play some attacks. The Gargoyle is pretty straightforward. It can roll an attack of 4 on any troops that its hexagon tile is connected to. It does have the special ability, just like the Ogre Lord, to strengthen all troops in battle to allow them to roll 1 extra attack dice. So in this case, we'd have the Chaos Warriors, the Goblins, and the Chaos Archers would then be able to roll 1 extra combat dice because it's connected to the Gargoyle. It can also utilize something we call Dual Strike, which allows the Gargoyle to perform 1 extra attack in exchange for movement. So instead of moving 6, it can stay put and make 2 attacks on anyone surrounding it. So if these men-at-arms were here, it could then place attack once on the men-at-arms and another on the Imperial Knights. I feel like the Gargoyle is probably the most straightforward out of all the expanded characters that we have created for BattleMasters. And I really do enjoy the ability to add some of HeroQuest back into the old world. These characters look great on the board. They add a lot of excitement for both players. Visually, it just makes the battle seem more organic. I'm imagining scenes from like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe when all of the different creatures are coming to battle and fight. In BattleMasters, with everything set standard on the plates, it does make the gameplay look a little bit boring after a while. And so adding these additional heroes and additional monster mechanics do allow the gameplay to break up and add more excitement where excitement is needed. Now I'll be sure to add the 1 page of all of the expanded characters and homebrew elements that we've incorporated into our gameplay. And I hope that maybe this video will encourage you to bust out your battle mat, set up your figures, and continue to homebrew not just HeroQuest, which we all love to do, but also homebrew other games from that era, like BattleMasters and Advanced HeroQuest. With the slew of Citadel miniatures that are just piling up inside of our closets and all of these boxes, I do feel like it's exciting to get them all out. And let's put them all together. The new stuff with the old stuff, the new rules with the old play mechanics. And I do think it's fun to take them all out and find ways to incorporate them all together and continue to build and expand upon the old world. Well, that's all I have for you today. I really hope that this video has encouraged you to hit the like button, make a comment below, and to subscribe. Are there some homebrew elements that you've incorporated into BattleMasters? What are they? Write about it in the comments below. And hey, maybe it'll be a video of mine in the future. As always, united the heroes stand, divided they fall. Come, let the quest begin.